Imagine you're locked in a strange room and suddenly a timer starts ticking. What will happen when the time runs out? Well, you'll only find out at the end of the story. The story begins on the streets of America, where posters of a missing girl were plastered on every tree along the road. A man named Edgar was passing by in his truck, chewing gum, not even glancing at those posters. He had a small injury on his hand. After a while, he reached a deserted spot outside the city and took out a gun, some rope, and a few phones from a trunk. A while later, a girl named Nell woke up in a locked room, with no idea how she had gotten there. The entire room was completely empty. In the room, there was a bug, a clock, a speaker, and the number 9 written on a large panel. That same number was also on her shirt. With trembling legs, Nell made her way to the door, but no matter how hard she pulled or pushed, the door wouldn't budge an inch. She even called out for help, but it was no use. At that moment, the clock started ticking on its own, and Nell noticed a red rope. Suddenly, she found her phone under the rope, but she couldn't call anyone because there was no SIM card in it. Then she thought about escaping using the rope. After a while, her eyes fell on a stain on the floor that looked like blood. She looked up and saw that there was a piece of glass fitted into the ceiling at one spot. She tried jumping up again and again to reach it, but she just couldn't. Nell started pacing around nervously. She had absolutely no idea what she was even doing in this room. Suddenly, an alarm started ringing and the whole room was bathed in green light. Nell sat down on the floor and felt like something bad was definitely about to happen, but the light turned off after just a few moments. Then Nell took out her phone again and saw that all the numbers had been deleted. There were only a few pictures of the sea on the phone, which reminded her of a song. There was a picture of a girl named Dawn in it, and seeing her made Nell really happy. She started wondering why Dawn had left her after all. After that, Nell threw her shoe at the glass above, hoping someone would notice her, but that trick failed too. Frustrated, she angrily threw her phone at the wall, but the phone got stuck in panel number 9 and a beautiful song started playing. Nell saw that a hole had formed there. She quickly used all her strength to make the hole bigger so she could escape, but all she found behind it was another wall. Meanwhile, 15 minutes had passed on the clock and it started making some noises. All the lights in the room went out, and now she could hear the sounds of doors and windows opening and closing from outside. Terrified, Nell closed her eyes and calmed herself by humming that ocean song. Within moments, the lights came back on, but when Nell opened her eyes, she saw that the locks on the door were gone, and now she could open the door. But even this time, all the poor girl found behind the door was a wall. At that very moment, the clock started counting down 45 minutes in reverse. Nell started shouting in anger, and once again, the room was filled with green light. Suddenly, she heard a man's voice coming from a grate in the wall behind the door. Nell ran over to him and started talking. The man's name is Travis, and just like her, he is trapped in a room. The only difference was that his number was 6 instead of 9. He also didn't know who had imprisoned them or why. Neither of them knew that, in reality, Edgar was watching them through a CCTV camera. Meanwhile, Travis told Nell that he had tried to reach the glass window using a rope, but the window handle broke off. Even after Travis told her, Nell tied a knot in the rope, hooked it onto the handle, and started pulling, but the handle broke under her weight. She fell straight down, and in the process, her shoulder got dislocated. Nell's mind was reeling badly. Hearing Travis's voice, she came to her senses a little. For a while, there was a loud ringing in her ears, and she was seeing strange things. She had a splitting headache, but Travis said she needed to fix her shoulder as soon as possible. Otherwise, the pain would soon become unbearable. Then Nell stood up and forcefully slammed her shoulder back and forth against the wall so it would set back into place. After that, she chatted with Travis for a bit to distract herself and played that same song on her phone, which Travis also really liked. Suddenly, there was a loud ringing in her ears again, and she started seeing things once more. She saw that a man was trying to grab her hand, and Nell struck his hand with his own pen. Meanwhile, Travis started asking what they had done to end up imprisoned here. He even suspected that maybe God had sent them here. Just then, Travis's screams could be heard. He was telling someone to stay away from him. Then the light in Nell's room also turned green, and thinking about Travis's condition, Nell started having another seizure. She calmed herself down once again by singing that song about the sea. When the lights came back on, Nell spoke to Travis. She said that a man had come into her room to fix her, and now she also had a severe headache. The green light kept coming and going in the room. and now Nell decided that she would definitely find a way to get out of here. She searched the room and found a wire, but it didn't seem particularly useful to her. Then she noticed that something had been attached to her arm, and on the other side, Travis said that he had something similar on his leg. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking down, so Nell came up with a trick to unscrew the mesh using the broken window handle. Her plan worked and the mesh came loose. Seeing this, Travis also started opening his mesh, and Nell picked up a wire she found behind the panel. When she pulled the wire, she found a hidden camera, which she showed to Travis. After that, Nell cut the wire, so now Edgar couldn't see anything in Nell's room. Nell tried to reach Travis through the mesh passage, but there was very little space. In the middle, there was a line of green light. As soon as she touched it, the room's lights turned yellow and a loud alarm started blaring, causing Nell's ears to hurt. She quickly went back to her room, but on the way, her shoulder got hurt again. Because of this, she started seeing things again. This time, she saw that her hands were covered in blood. After this dangerous moment, Nell told Travis to keep breaking the mesh while she started tending to her own shoulder. Just then, she noticed her arm, which was bleeding. She tore her sleeve a little and saw that a microchip had been implanted in her arm. Then Nell looked at Travis, who still hadn't managed to open his mesh. Now, there was only 1 minute left on the clock, and suddenly it turned red. Nell quickly told Travis to open the mesh. Travis used all his strength and managed to open the mesh just in time. As soon as time ran out, the lights and doors shut again. Within moments, the lights came back on, and by now Nell was seething with anger. She started humming a song, drifting toward madness, and began saying all sorts of strange things in between. Suddenly, a small opening appeared in the door, and a bright red light started shining in from outside. Nell carefully reached her hand outside, and she ended up with a gun in her hand. Just then, the light turned green and a strange gas filled the entire room. The light changed color with her voice, and Nell realized that by changing the light with her voice, she had to reach the red light. She fired a shot at the glass above, which turned the lights red. Meanwhile, Edgar was still watching her through a new camera. Nell picked up the rope and hooked it above, so now she could get out. But even after reaching the top, it was of no use. Above, there wasn't a roof but a room which had a screen showing the moon and stars. Now, the words "the end" were written there. She peeked down into Travis's room from above. His room was also filled with gas, but he wasn't as brave as Nell. Now Edgar was coming to meet Nell. Nell ran and hid behind a wall and managed to escape without Edgar noticing her. Dodge in and hide in, she made her way to his office. It looked like the building of some company. The surprising thing was, it was daytime, but there was no one inside the building. Nell reached a room where Travis's ad was playing on repeat. Actually, it's an ad for robots that look so real, no human can tell the difference. In anger, Nell smashed the TV with her gun. Then, she saw a large picture of Don, who was actually the owner of this robotics company. Just then, a guide came up to Nell, who was explaining everything to his clients. They all ignored Nell and moved on. Before Nell could figure out what was happening, Edgar found her. At that moment, Nell caught a glimpse and realized that the man who had removed the cover from her face was Edgar himself. This was the same man Nell had stabbed with a pen. Frightened, Nell pointed a gun at Edgar, but Edgar simply pressed a button on his tablet and turned it off. Now we finally learn that Nell is actually a robot made by this company, and her model number is 9. Later, when Nell regained consciousness, she found herself sitting on the same seashore. Soon, Edgar also arrived there. Since Nell had attacked him, she was tied to a chair. This sea was created based on Nell's mind, and now Edgar started asking her questions about the captivity. They were kept in captivity so that their human emotions could be tested. Nell and Travis had to support each other to get out. They really took care of each other. Edgar asked if there was ever a time when Nell doubted her own humanity. Hearing this, Nell realized that she didn't even know who she really was. Actually, Nell's training had been going on for several weeks, and the company wanted to remove all her flaws and turn her into Model 10. At the end of the test, her memory was erased because she wouldn't be able to handle this terrible truth. Edgar turned Nell off and locked her back in the same room. Nell woke up once again without her memory, and Edgar went off on vacation somewhere with his family. Will robots that are exactly like humans be created in the future? What do you think? Be sure to let us know in the comments.